Hello and welcome to another Blab. It is Ellen and Craig from B2B R&D, and it's the Digital Marketing Strategies Blab. Today is episode 27. Hey, we've been doing this for a while.
We have.
And the topic is digital marketing automation. I am Ellen Williams, CEO and co-founder of B2B R&D. Always joined here. Well, when I'm around, I'm joined here by...
And I'm Craig Yaris, COO and co-founder of B2B R&D. I'm listening in from Chromecast. All right, Barb. I haven't done that before. I did not know you can use Blab on a Chromecast. That's
Very
actually
cool.
pretty cool.
Yes. Technology. Gotta love it. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and speaking of technology, I know Blab had made some changes, so I'm just sort of like, I feel like every time I go on a Blab, something is different. So I always feel like I have to get a quick lay of the land. So I apologize for that.
Right. And, I think that's the case with almost any technology that's cloud-based or software as a service, SaaS kind of thing. And we've definitely touched on this before as well. And that is a great lead-in for automation, because all those tools are evolving and changing as well. There's the core functionality of automation, which is really to do the task for you. And then there's the bigger, broader view of automation where there's actually some thinking going on for you. Again, I guess doing another task for you. So I really want to tackle all of that as much as we can in an hour.
Right.
From a strategic point of view. So in previous Blabs, we've talked about the good, bad, ugly of automation, from CRM to social media automation and retargeting and things of that nature. And certainly there are best practices around that. There are ways you can really annoy the people you're reaching out to, but there are ways that you can really enhance the relationship. So I want to go down that road today, sort of strategy around automation.
Sure.
Now, B2B R&D has been around for just short of a year, so we've had the opportunity as a startup to decide what tools we're using. Certainly, we've been lean with the tools we're using, and we've bounced around a bit, so it's been a never-ending learning curve, which definitely has its pros and cons, right? So you keep learning, but it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yes. And all the time that you invested on one tool, you then have to reinvest on the new tool. So it is... Well,
at least a percentage of it, right? Sure. Because a CRM is a CRM. If you learn any marketing automation tool, CRM tool, even things like Hootsuite, where you're automating your content calendar, once you get through one of those, then at least you've got some sort of jump on if you have to start another one, right? You're not starting totally from scratch, because conceptually, these tools, in the end, they all do the same thing to a degree. And then when you get to that bar, that's when they all go haywire into their own direction, right? This does what? How do I do this? What's that plus sign, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to open the question to you. It's, a little broad, but take it as you will. So from a strategy perspective, let's go broad, and then we'll narrow it down.
Sure.
How much automation should be in a marketing strategy?
That's a great question, because I think people have a tendency to either jump in and automate everything or automate nothing. And I think within a strategy, what you should automate are things that don't require the immediate response. Now, I'm going to lump everything together just for a second. Marketing automation and social media automation, because I'm keeping them, in my mind, they're separate. They're 2 very separate things.
I agree.
And I think social media automation should be a part of your strategy, to the point of scheduling out, let's say, the week's worth of posts, but a business still needs to be on top of their social media. They still need to be monitoring it on a daily or everyday basis to see what kind of responses they're getting. They should be analyzing their analytics. So I think social media should be automated as best to their ability. When you talk marketing automation, I think parts of your marketing strategy should be automated. If people visit your website and fill out a form, that's a perfect opportunity if they want to learn more to put them into an automation funnel that offers them the ability, and you and I talked about this in depth the other day, and put them into that funnel. Yes, and I know you're thinking I was totally opposite the other day. You won me over in this, conversation. So it is to put them into that automated funnel to learn more. I think if people click on a sign up, that's not an automation. So your goal will determine your automation.
Okay. So yes, your goal will determine your automation. I totally agree with that. But I think that even a sign up or a buy now does have a level of automation to it. Of course, the user is going to go through the process. If it's sign up, there's going to be a form, and then they're going to log into something. If it's buy now, then they're going to, fill their cards and then go through. But that doesn't end. Automation has to follow after that. It's just a different path. Now you're developing the communication between you and your customer.
And I completely agree. And I think 9 out of 10 businesses don't have that automation step after a purchase.
Right.
In fact, I'd probably go 95% of businesses don't have that before the fact. And you brought up something that I just completely spaced on in the beginning. If I click the buy now button and go to the cart but don't close, I should be into a sales automation path that was very different than the learn more, very different than the closed sale path.
Correct.
So your strategy before you send an email, you need to outline exactly what happens. And I think that's where businesses fall short. They don't think about, well, let's see, if they click here, they want more info. I'll talk to them. I look at me and I don't want a phone call. If I want to learn more, I want to learn more the way I said I wanted to learn more. It's by the computer.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Learning more the way you want to learn more. So when you're talking about a strategy that includes automation, you also have to look at both sides of the coin, right? And both sides being the business doing the automation and the customer or client who would be receiving the automation. Right. If I'm interested in information now, then maybe the automation is that chat bubble that comes up.
It could be.
Right? Maybe the automation is what do they call them? A splash page or a lead page that says sign up for our newsletter. You put your email in, you're done. Sign up for our white paper, that kind of thing. So now there you have an email automation, and I know I've signed up.
Schedule a call now.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I've signed up for demos where the email I get says, thank you, let's schedule that demo. Excuse me. So the automation that you're talking about, marketing automation, and I know what you're saying, think it through before you start, totally. But there are a lot of other little elements of automation that can be part of your strategy that can really connect with your customer or client at their, and I'm going to use the new buzzword, at their moment, right? So a lot of the, Google started these moments, and it's mostly based on mostly based on search or moments of someone's life when they're looking for something. And those can be bigger picture moments, you know, like weddings and births, and or small things like, you know, where's the nearest pizza place? You know, I need it now. Now's the moment, right? But if someone's on your website, that definitely is a moment. And how do you strategize around connecting with them appropriately? And I think in that sense, there's no better way than automation. So from a strategy standpoint, and I think you're right, a grand majority of businesses are not taking advantage of all the potential ways they can add automation to their strategy. And I think there are, like, every step of the way, there's a way to automate the strategy. And the good news is, and I think the industry is starting to understand and embrace this, is that marketing automation does not have to negate creativity.
Oh, God, no.
Right. So, you know, when you think of automation, you think of, well, I think in general, almost robotic, you know, static, you know, automation, rote. And in the past, absolutely. And I, you know, 10 years ago, I was advising people, if you find yourself doing the same thing over and over again, automate it, right? We've definitely grown. So the word automation still means that. If you find yourself doing something over and over again, there's a good chance you can automate that.
But,
but when you're talking about a strategy and marketing, it's 50-50. You know, you have to have that creativity, and, you know, with the right marketing automation tool, you have the flexibility to change your mind halfway through, either because you came up with a new brilliant idea, or because as you're monitoring the statistics, you know, you're seeing it's right. It's not going down the road you wanted it to. Exactly right. Now, monitoring the statistics is not much. There's not much automation you can do there.
No.
What do you think?
You have to. Yes, that is a roll your sleeves up and everyday check. You have no choice but to follow the actual analytics by taking the time to do it. There just is no easy way out of it. And I do think that the term automation, although it works by definition, I do think that, you know, we need a new word for what people are doing with their marketing. Because you're right, automation conjures up just the robotic. And I have to tell you, there is now the use of automation, like we said earlier, it's not new. Marketing automation is not new. It's just that people...
Relatively new, don't you think?
I think it's at least 2, 3, 4 years old.
I think that's relatively new, especially since people aren't adopting it yet.
See, and in my mind, in technology, 4 years, that's ancient already.
I think it all depends on, I think for me, it would depend on adoption. Like if you said, you know, email isn't new. Everyone knows about email. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's been, you know, doing email for 20 years now. When you talk about customer relationship management, or CRM, which has a lot of the sales automation, you know, that had great promise, but real issues with adoption because people were reluctant to the automation, and it's gained some speed. So if you start talking to me about CRM, that's not new. I think marketing automation is sort of the new guy on the block. Yes, you know, if your smartphone is 4 years old, it's old.
Are you
right?
kidding? This is only since, you know, I don't know, September when it came out, and I'm already thinking what's going to be next year. Right.
Me too. I have the Samsung Edge 6 and the 7 is out, and you can throw it in a tub of water. So yeah, I agree with you. Some technologies, new is new. I think from a software, especially business business software, marketing automation, I think I would call it relatively new because you don't have big adoption and you don't have great understanding. So it's still,
Okay.
it's building up steam. That would be my
Okay.
definition.
And I completely understand. I was looking at it from there's a company I've been working with and doing business with for years. They own the Studio Press, and Copyblogger, I think, is what the name of it. And I mean, they've been using marketing automation forever. And I've always been fascinated by how well they do it. And it's been years. So I guess in my mind, that's why I look at it and say, this is old. We're just the industries, the small, the large, the medium-sized businesses, they're just not getting it. So I think about and I don't want to call out a department store negatively. So there's this department store that I signed up for their marketing email. Now, to me, a perfect opportunity. They knew what I bought. I signed up at the register. They knew I bought boys' clothes because I have boys. I would get 3 to 4 email a week, advertising girls' clothing. Yeah, it wasn't, it was automated, yes.
Right.
But they just totally missed the boat. And within a week or two, I unsubscribed. So they've lost a customer.
Right. So in that case, you've got, not best practices on automation, but I have to say, I don't think they were 100% off the mark there.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because for so many years when I was with Constant Contact, and we did talk about segmentation and understanding what the people on your list are most interested in so you could address their needs appropriately. There was also the opportunity to upsell, cross-sell, at least if you're buying boys' clothes, chances are some girls, right? So that email should have been predominantly about what you purchased, with maybe little bits of information about. So I would say, I see where they're going. At least it's automated, but I do agree that that wasn't well thought out, or they didn't capture the right information. I mean, something definitely went haywire there, either in the planning or in the automation itself. And I think without knowing which one, that's where the hesitation is. Well, is it going to work? Is it going to do what I want it to do? And I personally love technology. I also get really frustrated by it. And my husband says it all the time. For someone who's so deep into technology, you have such little patience. It's because I really want it to work. And for people who are just adopting, or for, like you said, marketing automation's been around for a little while, and it has. But I think it's evolving. It's getting better. It's understanding the users. I mean, when you start, I've been using computers forever, it feels like. And when there was only 1 or 2 word processors that you could choose from, that was it. And as life goes on, now there's a ton. If you were to look at, there's a crazy infographic that's all about MarTech, and there are so many companies, you can't read them. No matter how big you make that infographic, it's tremendous. And so there's so many people entering the playing field. In fact, I was talking to someone the other day about accounting software, and he was listing some of the new accounting programs. And I said, more power to startups. It's great that there are more people coming on board. Unfortunately, in my opinion, in the end, if you're a startup and you're using accounting, eventually you're going to be using an accountant or a CPA, and they're not going to want to fuss with a startup product. They're going to want a tried and true. I know how to use it. I know your accounting is being done well. And so, I think from a marketing automation, for those who jumped in early, for CRM, for those who jumped in early, they totally get it, and they're excited when new things come on board. But for people who are just starting to come on board, there's a lot to learn.
Now, Ellen, I'm going to I want to, if you don't mind, can you make me a host? Because I think I could bring up that image that we were referring to. within the Blab here, I know you can start to share things. So I want to see if I can do that.
Okay.
I'm trying to see, again, this is where that whole...
Yep, it's technology. And the interesting thing about Blab, which is a platform we've been using now, as we said, this is our 27th episode. We have honored the holidays that came on Friday. So we've been doing this for more than half a year. And I really have enjoyed it. Oh, look at you. Very excited.
There it is.
And it's been really fun watching Blab evolve. However, yeah, the flip side of that is every time we log on, it's like, okay, where do I click? What's going on? So not everything's perfect. Some enhancements are wonderful, and some enhancements you sit back and go, why did they do that? But Blab is not alone. There's plenty of software.
No,
do you remember when Microsoft changed Office and
yes,
the new ribbon? Oh my gosh.
I loved it. I loved it from day one.
I didn't love it from day one. I understood it and got to love it quickly, but the backlash was ridiculous. And at that time, I did have individual clients, and it's that resistance, either resistance to technology or resistance to change. And when technology changes, right, you've got a double whammy. Absolutely.
I am of course, the family technology person, and I'm, my wife runs a company, so I'm their technology person. And I can't tell you how often I get what changed? Can you teach me what to do now?
Right.
She just needs it to work and the way she wants it to.
Right.
But so going back to that marketing technology landscape, you could see the image here, and hopefully it'll show up in the recording as well. You can see here that, this is just as of January. It's crazy.
It's definitely overwhelming.
Yes.
I don't blame them. It's growing, and this is why I feel it's still new, because people are still coming on board. They have new ideas on how things will work. You and I have had the opportunity to test out a few marketing automation products, and we're talking not the big boys. And even the ones that we've played with have some very big variations. So people, as it evolves, and as users with any technology, as users start to ask for, I wish it did this and I wish it did that, you start putting that on the product roadmap. Does that make sense? How difficult would that be to accomplish based on the programming we have? What other plans do we have that we don't? Doing that would be silly, because 3 months down the line we have a better idea. So when you're talking about specifically marketing automation, I do think I wouldn't say infancy, but maybe toddler. It's got some roots. It's got some ground, but it's still, playing with it is amazing. The things it can do, and trying to wrap your mind around, this product looks a little different than that one. So one of the products we worked with called it workflow, which made sense to me because that was a word that was familiar to me. The other one called it automation, which it makes sense, but to me, it's too broad a term. Just like CRM, you can have potentials and you can have opportunities, and so unfortunately there isn't. With accounting, you've got accounts receivable and accounts payable, and you're done.
Yeah, there's no uniformity in the term. We've started using or are experimenting with a new automation platform, and I was looking at it this morning, spending some time, and they're using words that just are not intuitive to me. So I have to then look and say, okay, this is what they mean in my brain. And I think that is a definite downfall. I agree that if I jump from platform to platform, terminology should be the same. If I go to one doctor and they tell me I have arthritis, the other doctor doesn't tell me I have, something else, but it means the same.
Right.
You need that continuity.
Yeah, and that's been, I think, the Achilles heel of technology all along, because you want to be new and different. When you come
Yeah,
up with
no,
a,
you're right.
come up with a software, you want to be new and different. You want to do things differently, and they give it a different word. I wish I have one on the tip of my tongue and I just unfortunately can't think of it. Where they called it one thing and it was sort of ridiculous that somebody called it something different. But so from a strategy perspective, being able to take those tools and somehow customize them, not just for the automation, like my company would do a different workflow than someone else's company. So there's a customization there. And the tool just lets you do what works for you. But the ability to customize, I want to call it opportunity, not, potential. I want to call it workflow, not automation. And again, with the caveat that we are not working with the big boys. So the larger marketing automation tools may do that. It may say,
Sure.
how do you talk in your organization so that the tool itself can mirror the way you work? And, that would help with adoption as well. And they may well do that.
Mm-hmm.
When you spend, when you put thousands of dollars down on a piece of software, I mean, the hope is that, that money is well spent and it's going to resonate with everyone who needs to use it.
And I do think that helps adoption. It does make it easy for internally, I can now explain to the salespeople what each thing is. They understand it. We don't have to play by anybody else's rules. I have a question now.
The only issue is that when you call for tech support, they're like, what are you talking about? Yep.
That's true. Now, so the marketing automation basically runs the gamut from simple to incredibly complex. So you can create workflows using the terminology you mentioned for your automation that are simple and complex. I know you mentioned Constant Contact. You were employed by Constant Contact. I am a solution provider, and they have sort of we'll call it incredibly high level marketing automation. Do you think that businesses, large or small, should jump in with more in-depth marketing automation, or should they try their hand at the, hey, it's sort of automation, kind of, maybe if I close one eye and stand on my head?
I think it comes down to the amount of time and talent and resources you have available. If you can utilize a product that has, yes, complexity, but I would also call it comprehensive, and
I like
almost being smart, right? So a smart workflow says, I sent an email, you didn't open it. The next email I send you is going to be, X. I sent you an email, you opened it. The next email I send you is going to be Y because I'm going to converse with you differently. I sent you an email and you clicked on something. So the next email I send you is going to be Z, and the timing might be different. So there's some intelligence that marketing automation can be smart, and it doesn't have to be, you bought from us, I'm sending you an email about girls' clothes. Right?
Right.
So you've got the
completely
simplicity, or you've got the comprehensive personalization, smart kind of marketing automation. Now, if we talk about Constant Contact, they have a drip campaign. So there is an automation that I can preset a series of emails to go out, and they're not by date. They're directly related to the day in which you enter. You enter that stream. So if I start today, in 2 weeks I'm getting a certain email. But if you start in 2 weeks, the same email I'm getting that day, you'll get in 2 weeks. So there's a level of intelligence there. You don't just join in midway. And drip campaigns can be very powerful. And some marketing automation that I've actually had a chance, not hands-on, but I've had a chance to see a demo. One of them had both, which was very interesting to me, that the strategy could be a drip campaign.
Really?
Yeah, the strategy could be a drip campaign that is somewhat personalized, but sort of predetermined. You're going to get email 1 and then 2 and then 3, regardless of your
Right.
actions. But if there's a specific action you take during that campaign, then the software can flip you over to a marketing automation workflow, because now and marketing automation can score you, or can trigger based on an action. So there's a lot of ways in which the system can say, okay, this drip campaign worked. Now I want to, graduate you to a more personalized workflow, because both have merit. But what I've only seen one that does both. So when you're talking about constant contact and starting with automation, absolutely, a drip campaign is an automation. It can be a great strategy because multiple touch points are important to get anyone to get from I want to learn more to I want to buy now.
Sure.
But a marketing automation that has a little more intelligence, that from the get-go can understand the way in which the customer is engaging and be more proactive on making sure the next communication is relevant to the action being taken, it is very powerful. But again, I really think it goes back to time, talent, and resources. A lot of small businesses wind up doing their own marketing, for better or for worse. And there are tools out there. I mean, you and I, right? We're diving into these marketing automation without a value-added resell. Well, without a value-added reseller or without training, we're diving in. So there's room for everyone, and that's why I think that infographic is so big. But it really comes down to, from a strategy perspective, you can automate so much, utilizing your creativity to start and then getting the system to do the work for you. But again, only if you have the time and the talent to do that. And the more you automate, the more you have to monitor. So you want to see that the things you think will work are actually working.
I'm sharing. You mentioned the infographic again, so I felt the need to share it. And actually, this is the more current one. This is the March 2016 one, which is more in depth than the January 2016.
I was going to say, it actually looks a little more crowded.
It is. But so I don't know, though. You had just said that it depends on how much time. I agree. But I think no matter what a business is doing, they need to be looking at, if they're marketing, they need to be analyzing. They need to be looking at analytics.
Doubt, but they don't necessarily have to be automating everything.
But I think regardless of whether they're automating their marketing or not, analytics are going to be part of it. So I don't know that actually looking at their analytics or actually using automation will increase that aspect of it. I do think that there are tools out there to sort of bring all those things together. And there are tools that allow you to use your automation within your website. As we're setting up our new marketing automation through our WordPress-based website, and there are tools to do that. So if somebody fills out a Form A, they're going to be in this funnel. Form B, they're going to be in this one. And there are other tools to incorporate what did those people do once they filled out the form within your website.
Right.
But so I think the analytics sort of are right within the dashboard.
But the more you automate, the more you have to monitor to make sure that your automation is working the way you want it to. If I have a drip campaign, that's great. I can watch that and see what happens. Did that convert? Did it do the goal of the drip campaign? But if I have a drip campaign that automatically moves people over, and now I've got this workflow that says if they open it, if they don't, you have to see, here was my creativity. Open, close, open, not open. Is it making a difference? Is the next step based on your interaction with me am I seeing progress or aren't I? So I think it's important, the more you automate, that you need to watch all those steps.
I agree.
I use Hootsuite to automate a lot of the social media calendar, and that's in the last year I've really upped my game there, and it's been interesting because I used to spend a lot of time on social media, and I'm spending a little less time on social media. And I think, oh, I haven't been there in a while, and I go to look, and it's like, I've got posts and retweets, and it's like, oh, right, I automated that. But as you said, you have to have time. Automation is a percentage of your marketing. You still have to find the time to be present, especially when you're talking about social media. Marketing automation tends to be email and potentially turning into sales automation that could turn into phone calls.
You're absolutely
so
right.
Yeah, there's definitely two elements there.
Oh, excuse me. And I think the way you monitor is very different if you're talking social media and if you're talking, I'm going to call it marketing automation. and mainly because social media is such a fast-paced item that if a company tweet or a person tweets your business and you just are totally devoid of presence on that platform, you're going to lose business. And in fact, we had seen, not last week, the week before, a survey that had indicated the majority of companies aren't responding to customers.
But customers are there.
They are there. They're conversing, but it's one way. So that, and we know companies are automating, and it's okay. I think people are okay with it. As long as you've got that, and I know it sounds silly, but that thank you tweet every so often, that's not automated, although I do send those, and I do it from another platform, which aggregates my thank yous. So I know who I have to thank. And it enables me to do it when convenient. And I think as long as you spend a little bit of time with social, you're okay, even if you automate. I think for marketing automation, it still doesn't require, it's not a full-time job looking at those analytics, because you need to see how people are moving through your workflow. You can't just, okay, they entered workflow X, and on day 1 they got an email, and day 3 they get an email, oh my God, they didn't do anything, which means the workflow doesn't work. No, it means that person is taking their path.
Certainly. Oh, it's over time.
And
yes, the amount of data is what's important, not a one by one. Absolutely.
Yes, I was afraid that somebody watching this would think that we meant that you have to monitor every person within that automated workflow for every action they take every day.
No.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
Perfect. You need to monitor every element of the workflow over time to see if it's behaving, or the people in the workflow are behaving the way you anticipated. That's, and that takes time, and that takes, data. So yes, the first few people to enter that workflow, you watch, but over time is when you'll be able to see whether or not they're going in the direction and you're getting the results you want.
And the businesses also have to understand their own internal sales cycle. If you're selling a $100,000 subscription product, that's not a one-time, one touch and I'm in. That is a months and months long process. So, and businesses need to be aware of that when they create their workflow. If the average touch for somebody to do business is between 7 and 15, I'm really stretching it because
you hear it all over the place. Yep.
Right. 15 touches in 15 days probably isn't going to do it, and in fact, it's probably going to
stop at 8 or 10 because I'm not going the full 15.
especially if you know that your sales team takes 7 months to close a deal is the average, let's say. So if your 15 touches happen in 15 days and the average is 7 months, I'm not buying your product. And you've annoyed me and my moment is over. So businesses, when setting up their automation, and I think that was a conversation you and I had as well, how frequent is too frequent? How infrequent is too infrequent?
And that's very subjective. Like,
yes.
The ever famous, it depends, right? It depends on, exactly right. It depends on the product, the price of the product, the sales cycle, and all of that gets put into the marketing cycle as well. Absolutely. You need to understand your product. And I think that's less of an issue for most businesses, especially if the business is looking at a marketing automation. I may be speaking out of line, but I think most startups are not jumping into marketing automation. I think the ones that are embracing it are those that see the value because they're already doing it and now it's time to automate it. That would be my...
It's hard to say. I know that we've taken some time with marketing automation as a startup. And although we have experimented with platforms, we haven't found that good fit yet. And I think that's strictly because every platform offers something different. Right. But I have talked to people, a few years ago, actually it was probably 3 years ago, about automation, and they came to me and said, hey, we need to do some kind of marketing automation, but we don't know anything about it, and we've never done it before. Right. So I think it does run the gamut. People hear it and they see the potential. They know, they'll call and say, hey, I'm getting all these great emails from a company. How do they do that? But
my point is that they're already in business and they understand their business. And so as a startup, using our own business as an example, in retrospect, it would have been kind of silly to jump on a marketing automation because the first year of a startup, so many things change and a lot of assumptions either get proven or disproved. And if it's disproved, you need to move on, which is what happened to us. We've definitely, made some detours along the way and gone down roads we hadn't originally thought of. But now, a little less than a year, it's solid. We get it. And we know we understand, the next step. And I think this is the right time to start to automate that. I would be surprised if too many, startups jumped in. My point being, and I think you reiterated it, that people see it, people like it, people want it, but not until they understand who they are and what they're doing and who they're selling to. And if you don't have that, then marketing automation isn't going to do much for you anyway.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we said a bit ago, that when you think about your automation and how it fits into your strategy, you need to know your customer. You need to know their approximate journey from introduction to purchase. You need to know who they are, where they are. All of that is important. And I think before you have that, you can't set up an automation campaign, just like you said. And that includes, I think, both social and email marketing automation.
I agree. I think that not everyone realizes that, because social is unfortunately, you can do it badly pretty quickly.
Yes, same way. Basically, you can do automation badly.
You can.
Yes.
But the unfortunate thing about social being done badly is that it's public. If I set up an email marketing campaign and I'm not really hitting the mark, the only people who know it are the people on my list, and maybe a few of their friends. When you go, they sent me girls' clothes, right? So you're sharing, unfortunately, the bad news.
But you know what? I've actually shared that story more than I'd like to admit in front of audiences. So there's, although I don't ever mention.
Right. So you're not really disparaging
No.
the company itself. So a good story is a good story. A successful story versus a what not to do. Stories are always impactful.
Sure.
And yeah, they didn't get it right, but you're really one of the only people who know that, right? We're on social, and
Yeah.
I think in my experience, people are a little less afraid to. They're less afraid to jump into social than they are to start an email marketing campaign because
I agree.
because email marketing feels like more of a commitment, even though it's not. Social media is a commitment, but email marketing feels like a bigger hurdle, a bigger commitment, that kind of thing. Where social media, I can jump on, I can start my profile and I can jump on today. Even though there is in some businesses still a little hesitation, what if I say the wrong thing on social media? So true, be careful not to say the wrong thing on social media. But
email marketing, but take the automation out of it. Just the idea of an email newsletter is a much bigger hurdle for businesses, small and large. But I think large too sometimes, because they look at it as maybe they may not see the value in email. Even though we know that it is still hugely valuable.
I would say most businesses really do get the value of email. I think businesses in general get the value of email and social. So the question is, the multiple questions become, how do I grow my list, right? Where do my audiences reside? How much of it do I automate? When do I get to that next step? And for small businesses, it comes down to time, talent, resources. For larger businesses too, only they can hire somebody to do that 24/7.
Sure.
And they do, and there are all sorts of new roles being created in order to not only achieve getting the content out, but the analysis, big on analyzing and making sure that things are working the way you want them to. But of course, with larger organizations, you're going to get bigger sets of data more quickly than a smaller organization.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. You had mentioned companies sort of just being able to jump in on social and do whatever they want quickly. There was, I think, just today or yesterday, a company decided to be cute. I think it was yesterday, so it wasn't an April Fool's, and take on a major star, and quickly went bad. So I think those kinds of things, you need to really know your audience. And even with an email marketing automation platform, if you do it wrong and you happen to have the ear of influencers, it's going to go south very quickly.
Very true.
And we've talked to influencers. I was actually part of I'll call it a Facebook conversation between two people that are bigger, names in marketing. And it was a knockdown, drag out, inappropriate, all because of an email. So an email was sent, and all of a sudden it's posted to this Facebook page with 500,000 followers. And
so very interesting, right? And so that totally contradicts my comment of don't worry, the email is lesser, because you're absolutely right. I can post an email I receive on social media. So even though if the company isn't doing it, that's very true. Once it's outside, once you've sent it, it's no holds barred. You're absolutely
exactly.
I didn't even think about that email could go viral, right? Without even trying.
Yeah. And it was quite the conversation, and I noticed that conversation actually boiled over to Instagram, because one of the participants, the one I feel that was in the wrong, decided to involve his Instagram followers in it. And next thing you know, it's we've got a,
So then the question becomes, how long did this last? Because I don't know what you're talking about. So
right.
it did,
And I don't want
and
to
I
use.
understand that. So I don't know about it. Was it one of those 15 minutes of fame? It came and went.
No, it was a few days.
But
this
still,
went over.
I know.
Yeah, but that's it.
Using that term 15 minutes of fame does not mean it's actually 15 minutes. You do know. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know what it was? Both of these individuals, one of them actually deserves the accolades. One of them is a, God in his own mind. And it went on for a few days, 3-4 days. It didn't give one of them any more or less play than they may have gotten. But it was one of these, it was just.
Shouldn't have been done in public.
Shouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
so.
And
so it didn't give. So it didn't give. Good for you. So it didn't give them any more "quote unquote" fame. But
I don't think so.
Did it work in the opposite direction?
I think it did. For the person in the wrong, for instance, I unsubscribed to his newsletter.
Now, you felt he was in the wrong. Was that the consensus of everything you were reading?
It was. And the main reason, it wasn't so much what happened. It was
the behavior afterwards.
Yes. It was the behavior. It was the negativity. It was rude. It was,
So apparently it wasn't automated. So there's a good reason to use marketing automation so that your emotions don't get involved, right?
Right. The original email, though, was part of an automated email campaign that started this. And it was an email that I had gotten and a lot of other people had gotten. And I read it. And my thought from this person who was in the wrong, who had sent the automated email, was, you know what? I think I'm done with him now. I found it rude, condescending. It was insulting. And I was like, I unsubscribed.
Part of his just general marketing plan, automated one in a series kind of thing.
Okay. Yes.
So it wasn't necessarily the automation that went wrong.
Oh, no, it wasn't the automation.
It was the creativity behind it.
And it was
the
unwillingness.
Versus the, I bought boys' clothes, you sent me girl clothes, which you could have posted and done the same thing, calling out, hey, why aren't you personalizing things better? And then that would be bad automation.
No, this was
bad creativity right from the beginning.
Bad creativity. Yes, and the unwillingness to say, you're right. Wow, it offended that many people, and it offended a lot of people.
Very interesting.
You don't do it. You need to know, and that goes back to knowing your audience.
So I'm curious if it was automated, if it was that offensive. Was it in response to something else where so compared to the other emails in the series, it built up, or it was the same tone?
No, you know what? The tone, every email, and I could, if I were to go back and think about it, every email sort of got a little bit more in your face throughout his series until it came to a head, which is where the other individual with 500,000 connections shared it and said, really?
So my question to you now is, are you a customer, or were you in the lead? Like, were you a subscriber but not a paid subscriber? Did you just subscribe?
I was not only a subscriber to his email, but I was a paying customer of the company that he ran up until then.
Okay. So I was just curious if this was to customers or this was to prospects.
I have to tell you, I don't think he segmented the list at all.
Okay.
I think he blasted his automation to anyone and everyone he had ever had sign up for a list.
So I'm not sure I would call that automation.
Okay.
If we're really talking about marketing strategies and utilizing automation.
I see what you're saying.
Right? There would be a level of intelligence, and certainly if you're using a marketing automation product, not a CRM, not Constant Contact,
No, this was actually,
designates
it was
marketing
sent
automation.
through a marketing automation platform.
There are tools. So like any tool that offers, and we'll use your word, complexity, right? You can use this much.
Sure.
Or you can use it all. If you're talking about a marketing automation tool, there's so much, you can just do email through that.
Yes.
Or you can put the pixels on your website, and you can do the did they open, didn't they open, or did they click? So there's so much intelligence that can go into that to automate that. There was no way you would be down that road. And it would personalize. It would, the automation itself would, in this case, unfortunately, probably know more about you than the person that was sending those emails that didn't bother to learn about the people on the list. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I really think so many things went wrong in this campaign.
But from an automation standpoint,
I consider it automation because again, automated.
Is it automated, or did he write it and click send?
No, it was because everybody, well, okay. I will say I can't answer that.
Right.
For sure.
And that's why I'm saying I think that's the difference.
All of the emails were received at approximately the same day and same time over the course of, I think it was a week and a half.
Okay, and we do that manually every week.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I looked at it as a strictly automated campaign because in my mind, no one in their right mind would have done this to a complete list.
Okay.
Somebody who claims to be a marketing expert.
I would argue that it wasn't automated. Because I don't think an automation would do that. I think that's the value of marketing automation, that you think about it ahead of time. And there is, for lack of a better word, there is a level of set it and forget it, right? If you make the determination ahead of time that if this person buys boys' clothes, they're going to get emails about boys' clothes, right? Then the software is going to start, like I told you, the drip campaign can automatically move people over to something else. So I think the automation and marketing automation brings that intelligence where I can automate my email, right, by simply writing a bunch of them ahead of time and scheduling them ahead. Yeah. So that task is being done for me at that moment. But I did that task. Where marketing automation, I just set it up and it's actually automating that task. Understood. So, but and I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm trying to enlighten the value of automation. If that person, even though they're using a marketing automation product, because 9 times out of 10 the logo's at the bottom of the email, what tool they used, right? That doesn't mean they're using the marketing automation. Like I said, any marketing automation product that we're looking at, I can just send everybody the same email, or I can get involved with the workflow or the.
You're absolutely right. And I guess I have no idea if it was true automation or if he had done it that way.
But it appears that it wasn't. Because there's really no intelligence behind sending everyone on your list the same message.
But here's, and I guess the value of the conversation in my mind is that, hey, let's pretend it was automated. If you don't use the intelligence and the information you have and just think you're automating your marketing, the tool is only as good as the person using it, or the intelligence you have. The data you have.
The data you have and the intelligence, because he wasn't really all that smart with what he had scheduled out.
No, and he definitely, in my mind, he lost me as a customer, and I wouldn't recommend the product anymore. And I had, because I thought it was a great product.
Why does the product suffer? Because that's okay. Now you know what we're getting into? Branding.
Because we do business with people we know, like, and trust. I no longer liked or trusted him.
Even though the product
and
didn't change. The product was
product didn't
still
change.
good, but now
Product was still good.
no interest because the brand
Nope.
itself has been tarnished.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So people have to be, large and small. If you're automating, you have to be careful, and you do need to stay on top of it. And if you're getting feedback that indicates maybe not so good, get in front of it. Don't just argue with everyone.
Right. So,
and that is definitely a branding conversation.
Yep. So we are getting to the top of the hour. And so today we were talking about digital marketing strategies, specifically around automation. And automation does come in several shapes and sizes. But I think the key here is that there's work to be done in understanding your business message, your buyer personas, your best customers, and the way in which you want to communicate your brand before you do jump into automating all those things. And that's just good advice for running a business in general. So marketing automation doesn't take over what's going on. It simply automates what's going on. And if you can think it through and understand the road you want to guide your customers, prospects, leads, whichever road they go down, if you can do that, you can do that personalized and individually, then the system is just going to do what you tell it to do. But it'll think the way you think. So if you're not thinking right, neither will your automation. So
that's right.
Thank you for joining us today on Blab. And we are here every Friday, so we are looking forward to seeing you next week. I'm Ellen Williams, CEO and co-founder of B2B R&D, where we help marketers stay on top of all things digital marketing in a fraction of the time that it takes them to do it on their own. Always joined here by my co-founder and COO, Craig Yaris. Thanks for some great insight, Craig.
Thank you, Ellen. This was a great conversation this week.
Always fun on Blab, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.